I'd like to welcome everybody to the April 2025 Nassau REMAC meeting. We're going to open the meeting with a pledge of allegiance, salute to the flag, and then a moment of silence, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. On your record. Got a phone number, no, so I believe everybody received a copy of the last meeting's minutes and attendance. Are there any comments, changes, or recommendations to change the attendance or the minutes from the last meeting? Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes and attendance from the last meeting, please. Dave and Josh. Okay. So. Second by Dr. Kugler. Excuses for today's meeting. I received email excuses from Dr. Rajmi Gujral, Dr. John Rowe, Dr. James Ryan, Dr. Neil Kirshen, Dr. Rob Ramonti, Dana Cordopasso, and Dr. Alan Shearson. Any other excuses that you know about? No, okay. And then moving on. For my count, we have a quorum. I believe we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 voting members present, which is great. We only need 5 for a quorum. Is going down the agenda. Incoming email or correspondence. We received only 2 notifications. One was for Michael Gonzalez, EMT set 373272 for violations of New York State Code of Regulations 800.3 AP. His EMT card was surrendered effective 3/25/25. And Fiorenza Piccarelli 410111 for violations of New York Code of Regulations 800.3 AP. Surrendered the EMT card March 6, 2025. I received email from Jim Amelia with regards to the medical control radio phone notifications and diversions. I have that data, which we'll present under the e-bridge. Received letters from various members from both REMAC and REMSCO requesting to be on the tag for the medical control development. And I will follow that up after this meeting sometime either this week or next with emails to those who submitted interest to start the committee rolling. The goal is to have a representative chairman from each committee, the REMAC and the REMSCO, with a balanced membership. And the chairman won't be me. It'll have to be a different, I mean, really, it's not, it needs to be somebody else because it needs to be fair and balanced. We received a resignation letter from Dr. Jatinder Singh on February 14th. And then we received a letter from the New York State Department of Health Informatics Chief, Dr. Peter Brody, Chief Peter Brody, regarding PCR submission. And it was just basically a reminder, the state is looking into the timely submission of PCRs as required by the state. From the moment the call is completed, the PCR has to be uploaded within 4 hours. So if you're not in compliance with that, please get back to your agencies and let them know that that is a state requirement. It's not just a regional one. And if you're out of compliance, the state can levy fines. Outgoing. We sent a follow-up letter to the Bureau of EMS Division of Legal Affairs seeking follow-up. And it was discussed again at the CMAC meeting. And basically just, I'll just touch on that real quick. we were told they're waiting till the end of April to get back to us. For something that's been ongoing since December. So I think that they will have had plenty of time to address it. And then, another letter was sent out, as I do before every meeting, to Director, Jim Amelia, for additional medical control data. And then, so it was sort of like, I send it to him, he sends it to me, and so there's all those emails going back and forth. For reports, we're going to start with mine. Real quick, PCR transmission data, as I mentioned, we need to get that. It's for good patient care. The trauma centers are actually filing complaints with the state because they're not getting the PCRs in time, and it's affecting their ability to maintain their trauma certifications or designations. So please be good partners, be good patient care providers, and help our hospitals stay as trauma designated facilities by getting your PCRs out. It's not just a regional requirement, it's good patient care. I had a meeting recently with General Devices. They started almost like a user group, and they acknowledged Nassau County, the Nassau region. And they said that they were expressing how proud they were of the high volume of e-bridge adoption and how we streamline communications and workflows in Nassau County. So that was kind of nice. We got recognized at this group throughout, users throughout the country. I mentioned that. For CMAC, just moving along. The report from Director Greenberg and Director Tezura that there was the protocol change log was posted. Alternative medication formulary will be posted to the state website. The new protocols are coming into play. They've been approved and they should be coming in online, meaning the collaborative protocols. July 1st is when they go in service. So please start reviewing them now, training your providers now so that they're ready July 1st when they become the regional protocol. There was an extensive discussion held by Deputy Director Tezura at the CMAC and at the SEMSCO regarding how the Bureau of EMS is undergoing a quote, evolution. They hired, what was it, 150 new staff members. And when the CMAC representation asked Deputy Director Tezura to please clarify what's going on with the state medical director, the response was, I'm building out the job descriptions for these 150 people. I'll get to the job description and the medical director when I'm done. So my question was, and it wasn't a question directly to the deputy director, but in general to the people who are sitting next to me, and I'll voice it here as a concern. 4 years ago, when the position opened, a year later, Director Greenberg said, oh, I posted the job on LinkedIn. So you can't post a job that's civil service without having a job description. And then 6 months after that, when nobody saw the job posted on LinkedIn, we called him out on it. He goes, well, I'll have to repost it. There was never any, we have to create a job description. And then we called him out again saying, where's the job description? Where's the job? He said, oh, it has to go to civil service. So there's one excuse after another. And now that they're growing their family 150-fold, plus they added 4 more district chiefs, they put this medical director thing on the side. And I think it's important for you guys to understand that what seems to me is the state has no intention of ever creating a state medical director. At least the Bureau is not really digging in on that. So if you guys have any say, I would ask that you please speak on behalf of yourself and the region to anybody that'll listen to find out where this is going, because it seems like they have other priorities. I'll let you speak to the education committee, Don. New York City had a bunch of protocol changes that were approved, including New York City does use TXA, and the TCCC program recommended changing TXA dosing from 1 to 2 grams. So that was added. New York City doesn't have racemic epi, so they added that, and they added olanzapine to their formulary. Other business that was discussed at the state was EMS wait times. So it's not just here, it's everywhere. But I must say that in Nassau County, we're the most transparent of all the regions in the state. And because of Don's work, everybody can see what your wait time is expected to be on average at the hospital. I was looking at the data from the diversion requests for the month of March. There's really only been 1 or 2 hospitals that have been diverted only once or twice for volume, and it was a redirection, not a diversion. We've been very good in March. Our wall times have been very good. And actually what they did was take what we do here in Nassau County and use it as a best practice for the state. So that they reached out to Don to get his model so we could share it amongst the whole state.
Question on this.
Yeah.
Just curious question, does JACO measure that at all? I mean, is that something the hospitals are rated on at all?
I can't talk about what JACO measures. I really don't know.
I don't know either. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you. Ask,
Bro.
answer.
They don't measure wall times.
Okay,
I mean,
thank you.
They care about throughput. They care about things that are happening inside the walls of the hospital, and they look at, what happens at the front door a little differently. So they look at ED operations, certainly when they come inside, but there are other hospital leaders here. My knowledge.
I mean, that's what we were things for stroke, but TJC now is doing the accreditation for stroke. So they do now, in terms of recertification of survey that we just had, asked a lot of questions about pre-hospital and our relationship with them and the DQA and everything. So, but specifically for data and numbers and metrics, no, I don't think so, especially not for just a regular TJC hospital.
Point 6, they just announced that they will be looking at, we were just discussing it this morning, there's gonna be a look at the overall length of stay in the department for admitted patients. It will sort of go along that way, because nobody looks at our holds. Now they're gonna start looking at that.
Yeah, you get rid of holding patients and then you clear up bed space for the ambulance. Yeah, it's sort of
Thank you very much. sir.
chicken and the egg. Well, thank you. That was a good question. There was also discussion because the state has not funded the program agencies yet. So at the CMAC meeting, there was a good portion of the program agency representation not there because they didn't have the funds to attend the meeting. Luckily for us, we were able to have representation from our program agency. I don't know how you were able to manage that, but thank you. There was also discussion at the state level regarding the voting alternatives, so we could have alternate members at the CMAC. So, because there's always a challenge getting a quorum. So after that discussion, we did a little investigatory work. And Robert's Rules of Order says, because the number of members of the CMAC is limited by law, Robert's Rule says, in order to be a voting alternate, you have to be a voting member of the CMAC. But to add voting alternates, you would need to expand the number of members of the CMAC that can vote. And therefore, you probably make the requirements to get your quorum even more difficult because you would have more people that are eligible to vote that wouldn't show up. So then there was a discussion about how do we fix it. So then it would have to be a change in the rules that would say, for that particular meeting, the non-voting member would become the voting member and the voting member will become a non-voting member. It would have to be done formally, and that's the only way you could do it, but it would require a change of bylaws and regulations. So just everything that happens there may trickle down to here, so I wanted to share that bit of information with you. One of the other things that happened at the state was a motion that was voted on unanimously. The SEMSCO created a set of bylaws for the SEMSCO that included the CMAC. One of those was on term limits. But New York State Law Article 30 stipulates that the CMAC members may succeed themselves. There's no mention of term limits in the law. It was brought up and made a motion that this bylaw is illegal. It was voted unanimously that everybody in the CMAC agreed that it is illegal. The State Department of Health said, oh, we'll take it and we'll address it. But before it could get back to them, it went up to the SEMSCO who wrote the bylaws, and then the chairman sent it to the bylaw committee before the state could take it and put it on the table. Because once it got tabled, they would fall to the floor and then not be an issue. So That's something that the state is looking at with regards to succession, because again, it had to do with institutional memory. And it had to do with forms and the fact that it's so difficult to get a member from upstate, traveling from Buffalo, Syracuse, the northwestern portions of the state to come down for the REMAC or the CMAC meetings, that if they created or passed this bylaw, they would get nobody, and we wouldn't have the adequate representation. Lastly, one of the things that I did, I just reiterated, because there was a discussion about membership and the role of the CMAC in the configuration of state EMS. We were asking the Bureau of EMS Deputy Director about getting things done and completing tasks. And then I was quite upset at the time, and I had said to the Deputy Director, I said, Deputy Director, we don't work for you. You work for us. You're supposed to do our work, complete our job. We're all volunteers here. We're a committee appointed by the Commissioner of Health. And then when we ask for something from the Commissioner of Health, we expect that it come to us from the Commissioner of Health, not as an opinion from a director of the Bureau of EMS under the Division of Health. He goes, well, I speak for the Commissioner of Health. So then I said, you need to put that in writing from the Commissioner. So just want for your awareness that we're sort of standing up for ourselves, which is good, because typically the doctors don't do that. So there's a little bit of a backbone that seems to be forming, which is great. So that's CMAC. Any questions? Okay, thank you. QAQI. We have a new chairman who was appointed at the last QAQI committee, Dr. David Solar.
Good morning, everyone. So thank you for the committee for electing me as their new chair. A couple of things we spoke about is kind of recentering the committee and our aim. We're looking to not be a punitive group. We want people to feel comfortable coming to us with concerns, whether that be hospital, medical directors, other agencies, and let us take a independent look and really empower back to the agency medical directors, who are the ones who are really responsible for the remediations, if even necessary, for things that come up. To help us do that, one of the points of order that we took under for our next meeting is the mission statement, to really set out what our goals are, how we're going to do it, and what we're going to do. In this last meeting, there were 3 different, I guess, concerns that were brought to the committee. They were all discussed and referred back to the individual agency medical directors for their review. And if there's any remediation necessary, we ask them to report back to us just so we have an idea of what they found. The goal is, in the end, to make EMS better in Nassau. It's about showing best practices. So if we start seeing trends that these are the same things that keep coming up to us, then we're going to create a QA project on that specific concern. So the one that we're addressing first is the quote, wrong hospital, where EMS is taking patients that are felt inappropriate by that hospital. And getting an idea, what are we seeing? What trend is it? Because once we see it, we can then bring out a best practice to all the departments, to all the medical directors, and say, hey, look at this. So that is the new focus, the new goal of the QA committee. And we like to invite all the medical directors, hospital people in the room. If you're in a situation that you're not quite sure how to handle, need some reassurances or what have you, reach out to QAQI. We want to be a partner in all this. Again, getting away from punitive, which it had kind of taken in the past.
Great, thank you. Any questions for the new chairman? You can bring your darts next meeting. Thank you, and good luck. So Airway, Dr. Newbert.
Good afternoon, everyone. We had a very productive Airway Committee meeting. We reviewed 2 cases of RSIs. The best practices that we came back for everyone. In the first case, there was basically a nasal cannula end tidal prior to the intubation, and then the medic wanted to pre-oxygenate prior to the intubation and put a high flow through the nasal cannula. And we talked about the nasal cannulas that are meant for end tidal monitoring can only take up to about 5 or 6 liters per minute because of the size of the cannula. So if you want to use a nasal cannula for pre-oxygenation with that, you should use a standard nasal cannula in addition to the end tidal one. So that just came up. That was actually an interesting discussion. That was the first I had heard of that, but I thought that was a very good point for everyone. The other point about the first case is that the airway was secured with a supraglottic airway. Airway was not manageable. Patient turned out had a significant head, hemorrhage, brain hemorrhage. Was trismus, was not oxygenating, was not able to be oxygenated after the meds were given. Very easy to manage the airway. The intubation was not successful because of airway issues, but the supraglottic was placed and it was perfect. With the supraglottic, good oxygenation, good end tidal, ventilated the patient, sedated the patient, went to the tertiary care center where they were eventually able to intubate the patient with multiple anesthesiologists and fiber optics. There was some kind of anatomy issue as to what the problem was, like some kind of mass or something. But that being said, patient did fine, walked out of the hospital, no problem. And the key is it's airway management, not intubation. So once the medic recognized that this airway was not obtainable with a tube, the supraglottic airway was placed, absolutely ventilated the patient and saved the patient's life because now they were able to manage the airway. So just the key point here is that it's airway management and supraglottic airways are part of that. So if the answer is supraglottic, go with that. And that should be the standard is managing the airway. And this very clearly was a managed airway, and that was a success. The other case that we looked at was a elderly person with respiratory distress that got intubated. The 2 points that we got from that case, one was that there was a period of hypotension around the time of the intubation, and just reminding everyone that when you go to positive pressure ventilation and you go to ventilate with intubation and you're giving meds to sedate, that could further complicate hypotension or shock. So just remember, if the person's hypotensive, either delay the intubation to fix that with fluids or pressors, or do that in real time with your intubation to ensure that you're properly resuscitating the patient in addition to getting the airway. So airway management as part of the larger picture of resuscitation. And then also we talked about the new LifePak monitors and the ability to have real-time monitoring, and we have to do some software updates, but there's some cool new things on the LifePak 35 where you could actually watch the whole thing in real time and it records it in real time. So we talked about that. So that was interesting. So those were the 2 cases and the lessons learned, and everyone agreed that they were handled properly. There was an RSI application put forward and approved for Charlie Piccoli in Glen Cove for Glen Cove EMS. So we'll have to put that as a seconded motion for the full body. So we'll do that when we do the voting later. The other thing is that we have to vote on iGel being part of our policy manual as a BLS skill, because when the new protocols come out in July, the iGel will be the standard for BLS for cardiac arrest if equipped and trained. So just like EpiPens and BLS 12 leads and whatever, if your agencies want to train your people, and we all agreed to use the same standard for training that we've been using. It was the Hudson Valley's lecture, and then we had some additional things that we added from the Fire Police Academy. So we'll put that out to all the training academies, to VEB and CLI and whoever else is using it, so that and to any agency medical director. So that way it's the same standard that we've been holding in Nassau County for the whole time we've been doing the pilot. The pilot was very successful. That's why the protocol got changed. The other thing we agreed upon was a couple policy things that we just need to do in our policy manual. The first is that we changed our procedure of how we're submitting the cases. So when an RSI case occurs, we want all of the information to be that's the peer review, the medical director review, all the case reports back, and all the documents sent to the REMSCO, the REMSCO email, right down, that's what we're using. So we're gonna have it sent to the REMSCO email with a CC to me, so that way we make sure it gets uploaded in our system, and that all of the data is there for everyone to review prior to the meeting. So that's the first thing that we're gonna change. The second is that for all RSIs, there must be an uploading of the end tidal CO2 waveforms. So not just a picture of the strips that are printed out, but the actual uploading of the data. So that way we can preserve the integrity of that when we're doing our QA/QI. And then the third is that if the video laryngoscope can record, we would prefer to get a recording of it. And so that's kind of the standard that we want. Uploading of the end title, submission within 7 days to the REMSCO, and preferred uploading of the video or having a copy of the video so we could watch that. And again, that's just for quality assurance. And all of the 4 agencies currently involved in RSI agreed that they can meet that standard. So we agreed that would be the best way to do that. So we'll put that as a seconded motion when we just have to approve those policy changes for the policy manual. And then we're just cleaning up the way we're having our voting members internally in the committee. That doesn't need to be voted on, but just know that because we're adding new agencies, we want to make sure that the original members still have their seats, but that we fairly add people as we add agencies, because each agency that takes on RSI should also have a say at the committee level for what we're doing with RSI. So we talked about that, and we're just going to clean that up. And then finally, we worked on a peer review sheet to standardize the way we do our peer review. That was worked on by Scott and Cole, and we're gonna finalize that by the next meeting, so that way we have a standardized review. So when we're looking at these cases, it's standardized. So we're just kind of building the systems now that we're doing cases and that we're working through everything. We're just kind of cleaning our systems up and building them so they're more robust. So all good on all of that. And then we're just gonna our communications, we switched over to a better communication that's internal stuff. So. And everyone's doing great. We still have agencies that want to do this. Thank you. I could just say thank you for all the work that was done on the iGel project. We were a huge part in getting that, to the SEMSCO for approval and the new protocols. So we continue to push the envelope, and everyone's doing a great job, and we really appreciate everybody. So thanks.
Great, any questions? It's fantastic. Did you want to say what else? You have the skill?
Right, yeah, we have to vote on iOS, we're gonna, and the new business, we'll do that as a seconded motion, that iGel will be an acceptable skill in the region, so.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that when we get to new business.
Okay, so for protocols, Dr. Ryan has been excused, but just a reminder again, the new protocols go into effect July 1st, 2025. And with the BLS iGel, that's going to be one of the skills. It's if equipped and trained. So if your agency is not equipped and trained, and that includes untitled CO2 continuous waveform capnography, then you can't do it. For credentials, there was no issues. Nothing came before us to evaluate or assess. Policy, Dr. Bramante has asked for an excuse from the meeting, and Dr. Dishner. Okay, so I'm waiting to hear back from him to see his intent for the membership on the committee. Artet? Nada? Okay. And then eBridge. So again, there was a meeting by General Devices. They had like a super user group. We were invited to that. And that's where I reported out how we were recognized nationally. I want to thank Don Hudson, forgive me for stealing your thunder here. Continuously putting out the weekly coordinator report, and on that includes eBridge use data. We met with eBridge. They're adding the SPO2 to the vital signs for the reports. And they put out they give us training in I guess, the sandbox. And also it should be coming up on the actual uses. If you refresh your app, you should have the ability to place untitled SPO2. Bro, do you mind if I just continue and give the data? Thank you, just because I pulled it up real quick. So with regards to eBridge, there was a discussion at the ED committee with Dana Cordopasso and various leaders from the region about eBridge use. It was received very well. And I wanted to just make sure that people were still using it, and it was enjoyed by all. As a matter of fact, I'll give that report afterwards. Just usage to date, from January 1st to now, there's over 14,000 transmissions of notifications. 62 video calls were sent year to date. There were 184 trauma notifications, 47 STEMI notifications, 250 stroke notifications, and 45 notifications not acknowledged by the receiving facility. In addition, with the data, so I mean, there's a lot of use. I mean, it's 15,000 uses. There are, just for the month of March, medical control received 1,049 calls, and they made 1,049 notifications to the various hospitals in the region and to also Suffolk County, like to Good Sam and Huntington. What's wonderful about our medical control is they service both us and Suffolk County EMS units on the border of Nassau, Suffolk County that are coming to Nassau. So the Suffolk County units don't have our e-bridge, so they have to use our medical control, or they could use the Suffolk County medical control. But a lot of them, like my agency, uses Nassau medical control, which is fantastic, except that it keeps the guys in medical control busy. One of the things that we're trying to look at is to see if it's feasible for medical control to then turn around, instead of writing it on a piece of paper and putting it on a PDF and sending it, but to actually complete an e-bridge form for us, so that it helps us keep track of the calls coming to them. And that would add another 1,000, from probably 1,000 to 1,100 per month of notifications. So that's pretty huge. Just make sure I have my notes from. So from the ED committee, there was a note that actually, I'm sort of skipping around. We did ask about e-bridge use, and it was well received. We asked about ambulance turnaround times on the hospital side and if there's any issues. So Mount Sinai, South Nassau, Dr. Itzkowitz had said that they've expedited their triage process. So if you're finding that it's moving faster there, that's great. Because he said the nurses just get the very basic information, then they put the patient in a bed and finish the triage at the bedside. North Shore is going to get back to us regarding their new flow change. Sal Pardo from LIJ Valley Stream mentioned that they still have construction that's ongoing, that's affecting the flow. But they opened up a new pathway into the ER. So that should be expediting ambulances coming in. We discussed hospital diversion as a consideration and to eliminate it in the region. Figured we'd start with the hospitals since they're the ones asking for it. As I reported out in the beginning, the very few diversions for general ER care, maybe 4 just last month, which is very little. So if we eliminated it for general emergency medicine, I don't think it would affect anything. And so we got one member of that committee was in favor of no diversion, and we're waiting for others to get back to us. So that was the report from the ED committee that sort of wraps in the e-bridge report. Any questions on e-bridge or the ED committee? Fantastic. Just making sure you guys are still awake. All right, EMS modernization tag.
No report.
Okay, excellent. I like that. Remsco, Chairman Caldor.
I just have one thing in light of, you noticed that, Remsco program agency went out of business upstate. I just wanted to reassure you guys that we're doing okay, and the likelihood of us going out of business anytime soon is very slim to none. That's all.
Any questions for the chairman? Okay, moving on. So I did the ED committee. So let's see. EMS coordinator. Ron?
All right, so the budget, governor's budget is still out for comment. There's been no true publication of it just yet, other than the sort of wish list that was put out initially. There are some companion legislative bills, both in the state Senate and the state assembly, mirroring a lot of that. Those have all been included in the weekly EMS coordinators report, so you can see for yourself rather than maybe defaulting to the I got a guy model, where that guy or gal, I guess, would be not entirely accurate, shall we say. So if you hear stuff that you're not able to reference or possibly as somebody who's been proven wrong a time or two in the past, don't hesitate to reach out for references and correct information. So I say that only because it takes up an inordinate amount of time trying to diffuse rumors and bad information put out there. So thank you for everybody that's doing the right thing, spreading good information. State report from SEMSCO, CMAC and the like is posted to the Nassau EMS website from the last meetings along with the video links, so you can see what's going on up there. Dr. Kugler asked specifically about the education committee. So a lot going on within EMS education. Just a revisitation, basically. The age-old question is, what we're doing working? Is it having the intended effects? Is the money that we have being spent responsibly and reliably to give the chosen results? So that's all open right there. Along with some pending policy statements that'll be coming out from the Bureau of EMS related to EMS education and practical skills exams and the like. So that's that. Caliber touch upon program agency and state report. And just to echo Dr. Silver from the quality committee. So like many of the other initiatives that this and REMSCO have taken on, it sparked conversation and questions. Just today, we met with an agency in relation to their own quality assurance measures, and the intended effect is, just as the good doctor stated, was to forge partnerships and make sure that agencies know that there's someone else to turn to if they need assistance or have questions. So thank you again to everybody that's doing what they do. I know it's not always easy, but we've certainly come a long way in a short time.
Great, any questions? All right, anybody from the fire marshal's office? Okay. So unfinished business, we addressed quality, we addressed the medical control tag. Thank you for everybody that submitted. Their names, I'm just putting text messages. I don't know how to address that. So I'll answer you after. So the New York State DLA, which is Division of Legal Affairs, we're waiting for them to opine, and that's gonna happen in at the end of this month. Is there any other old business that we need to address? Okay. Okay. Then moving on to new business. The first thing I'd like to do is finish up what we started last meeting regarding filling the midterm vacancy of the REMAC officers. I'll just reiterate our bylaws state that in Article 7 of the REMAC of the regional policy and bylaws, it says REMAC Section 2 officers, in the event of a vacancy in any office, it shall be announced at a regular meeting, that at the following regular meeting, a special election shall be held to fill the balance of the term. Such partial term shall not be considered as a term of office for the purposes of Section 4 of this article. At that time, there was a motion to have Dr. Newbert added as the replacement as secretary to create a ballot. And it was made by that Dr. Kugler and seconded by Dr. Shearson. And a motion to close the ballot by Dr. Politi and Dr. Shearson was had. So a singular ballot was made with one name on it for our new secretary. I'd like to have somebody make a motion that we just cast one ballot. Dr. Harris, second, Dr. Ting. Okay. Okay, so congratulations. Second. All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
They pushed the EB by remarkable.
So we do have a quorum, so this ballot counts. That's great.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, I don't know why you volunteered for that.
I'm adding to the gray hair.
And then we have-
I'm working on it.
We have seconded motions from Airway. You want to bring those up again?
Sure. Hold on, let me go back to my other meeting.
I have them.
Oh, that's perfect, thanks.
All right, so the first motion was a policy change to the regional policy to have any RSI case and all paperwork sent to the Remsco email address, not just to Dr. Newbert. And then to Dr. Newbert as a CC. So this
Within
way,
7 days.
yeah, within 7 days.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, but I was on there already.
Yeah.
So the only addition was making sure that the initial email goes to the Remsco email address. Because if Don gives it up or whoever sits in that seat that gets that email, it's agnostic of the human, but it's definitive for the position. So this way it'll always come to the region and there won't be any questions.
Matt.
Yeah, Matt.
I guess similarly, you could create an email that says, airway QI chair ads,
Oh,
right?
We do that too.
Just because, when you win the lotto tomorrow, leave us all behind to pick up the airway pieces.
From your mouth to God's ears, bro.
10% of the cut.
Yeah.
But no, but I'm just saying, it also, again, like, I don't know what, if it eliminates any compliance issues, if someone's getting PHI from one health system to another, one agency to another, I would just say it's a clean way to do it. If it's not a technologically annoying thing.
So it came as a seconded motion from the airway committee. Do you mind if we modify the
That's fine.
motion? Yeah, and so instead of Remsco, we have to create.
Or
Remsco-
instead of actually just going to, actually, I have no problem with going to Remsco as a duplication, but you could also just say that's actually
Remsco's
your
create
personal.
a
email. And
dedicated.
then when you give up this role to somebody else.
Yeah, I would actually prefer that anyway. That's fine.
Again, I don't have a dog in the fight, but echoing off of what the state's been doing, creating emails for every one of their all new hires and new divisions and new this and new that. Quite honestly, it's nearly impossible to know who to email what. I respectfully suggest that the one email is a clearinghouse to internally
I
that,
mean, you can have it all go to you, or.
not to me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to the Remsco, right, to
Yeah,
the
that's fine.
Remsco email, right?
Okay, so.
I'm just saying, we take the actual, for the same way that,
Right.
Right, no, that's what we're saying, Matt.
That's
I'm
what
gonna
it
get a
is.
CC, but that it goes to the Remsco, because yes, there was that, yes. We're agreeing on the same thing.
So yeah, the intent was to, that Remsco email from today to tomorrow to whomever is transferable. Whereas if it's going to, Dr. So-and-so when that doctor disappears or goes away or moves on, hopefully winning the lotto.
Right.
Those emails are now dead and don't go anywhere, and now we have password
Right.
issues and this and that.
As the chair, I'm getting the CC just for duplicity, but we want the primary to be going to the Remsco.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so there's no change to the motion then. And then I guess we could just do by hand, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, anybody abstain? All right, that passes. Great. Okay, the second motion that came from the Airway Committee was to add to the policy manual that the end tidal CO2 waveform not form must be attached to the PCR. And if RSI, preferably to automatically upload to the PCR. So this way, your monitor data will get pushed onto your PCR. We know that there are some technologic issues. There are some company issues where one company doesn't allow another company to allow that PCR data to get put on their PCRs. So if that's the case, then you have to put all the waveforms that you have and all the data that you have on your PCR. And that just allows for better quality. And we're just codified here as a policy. Is that correct? Yep. Any questions on that policy? You have
No policy in favor.
okay, anybody in favor? All in favor? Sorry. Anybody opposed? Okay, so that passes. Great. Another policy change, standard is having video recording is preferred for all RSI. As opposed to saying it's mandatory, it's preferred, because we know that right now it's a very big expense for agencies. But ultimately, the goal will be to have it so that every laryngoscopy can be reviewed by the QA, by the Airway Committee. And they can armchair quarterback it. Anybody have any questions on the motion?
Just for a real quick aside, one of my agencies not here in Nassau, one of my Suffolk agencies, I had concern from the paramedics, why are you looking at my RSIs? One of the paramedics that brought this concern to me then had an incredibly difficult intubation that I watched on video that was sent to me after he did it, and I called him up and said, that was a really impressive intubation you did. I could see how difficult that airway was, and it was very clear you got that intubation. Good job. And then he smiled and said, oh, thanks. Now I know why you wanted to look at this. I said, yes, it's to help you and to make sure that we can support you and that we can offer suggestions. So that's going to be the standard eventually. And then obviously there's a cost required, but I mean, it's with end tidal CO2 being the initial step and now being able to actually see what's going on for QA/QI, it's really helpful and supportive and moving forward what we're doing and making sure the medics have all the right tools to do their jobs properly. So.
Okay, all in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, passes. And then, Glen Cove has a new member for consideration for RSI. You want to present him real quick?
Sure, it's Chief Robert Ercole. Also a medic with EAB. He's going to, it's been reviewed by myself. I've seen his work. He's had plenty of tubes. And he's coming as a approved seconded motion from the Airway Committee.
Okay, great. Any questions on the motion from the Airway Committee? All in favor? Anybody opposed? It's been great. Okay, thank you.
And then
everybody.
jump.
BLS super glide.
Yeah, BS super.
BLS.
Oh, you want to bring that up?
Sure. So, we just want to, approve BLS supraglottic use in cardiac arrest as one of the, optional regional policies with optional regional procedures. Is that what it says in the policy manual?
It's,
I don't know what
page-
it's called.
it's in the policy manual, I believe it's page 46. It's the regional treatment approvals where we say syringe epinephrine is allowed now.
Right,
Region,
so
this
we
would
just had to
say
approve that, yeah,
BLS supraglottic airways are allowed.
for cardiac arrest, if equipment
trained.
trained.
It's an option, it's not mandatory.
Both adults and peds,
Which said,
both adults and peds,
yes,
Adult cardiac arrest.
adult
only.
cardiac arrest only.
and that's the language from the CMAC.
Yes, that's like.
That's the
Yeah.
statewide collaborative protocol, because that's what the
So, for
pilot
the record, a
program-
bunch of wimps up at the CMAC.
Well, again, the feeling was, and it,
Speak to Dr.
doctor
Cooper
to
and-
doctor, right, yeah.
Matt, just so you know, for ALS providers, there's no restriction, they can use it in peds, this is specifically the BLS, IGEL, or BLS supraglottic. Yeah.
The feeling was that's where the pilot program was focused, and that's what the data supports, so hopefully soon,
The
but not.
next pediatric airway data will come out in 5 years, so we just let,
Okay, so, motion to approve, BLS supraglottic airways. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, great. So that's now a regional resource in July when it becomes part of protocols.
And then again, if anyone needs training for that, we have the training packet, we'll just reach out to me or Don, we'll get it to you. Yeah.
Okay. And, let's see if we got any-
So I had a question for the group or maybe for the CMAC. At the hospital, everyone just had to do that mandatory training that we had to do for mandatory reporter training. This is from one of my agencies. In that, it said that EMTs had to take that training.
Yeah.
Is that required for all EMTs and all of our agencies by April, whatever date it's
I
at?
believe it's any mandatory.
Right, that if you take the training, it says all mandatory reporters, but
Which
I,
EMTs are mandatory.
correct, but I just hadn't heard any guidance from anyone that said, so I don't know.
So it was discussed on the last statewide EMS provider briefing by Bureau Director Greenberg, and then on the statewide co-sponsor calls last week. So right now, no, there is no state requirement for EMS providers to take that mandatory training. And the rationale there is the initial impetus behind it was essentially for virtual visits, telehealth, if you will. Recognizing signs and
Don, you said they said it's not.
it is not required right now in New York State. If that changes, the Bureau will put out a policy for it.
There's clearly a mixed message about that.
And that's why it came directly from Director Greenberg as discussed. So I know there's,
Not mandatory.
again, different information out there, so.
Yeah, this is why I brought it up, because one of my agencies asked me and I didn't know the answer, so that was the whole reason I asked.
We got different information. But if they should now.
Correct.
So everyone knows it's an online training, it's put out by the state, it's easy to find, it's not, it doesn't cost anything, it's just the, other than time, it's like a 3-hour class. Yeah, it's like a 3-hour class.
Anything else for new business? Yeah, Chuck.
Yeah, two things I'll just bring up. First, just
As I mentioned at the last Remsco, we're still continuing to work towards developing a EMS memorial here in Nassau County. I had a couple of meetings. I have a small committee working on it. We've met with an architect to once again work on some designs and stuff with that. It's still a work in progress. I'm waiting on one area of the county once again to get back to us to see if they want to participate. As they also have to upgrade their memorial as well with that. I should have more information on that within the next month or so, and it'll come up at the Remsco on that. So it's all a work in progress. And then once again, once we get a design, then we can look at the funding and getting it out to see if we can get some of our partners once again to take an active role in the fundraising and stuff necessary for that. And the last thing I would bring up, as you mentioned, with our meeting in December with the state and the Division of Legal Affairs and all the issues going on with the state. And the SEMSCO, CMAC, bylaws. As the past chairman, I had appointed, Frank DeBova Senior, once again, to lead the legislative committee and once again to work on the bylaws, which is required every 2 years with the REMSCO. And we've kind of, held off until we get further direction and stuff on a lot of the things that we discussed, with the state and the Division of Legal Affairs back in December, as far as the role of the REMSCO. And looking at their bylaws and making sure that everything is on the, on the table. But from the REMAC side, I think it'd probably be appropriate that maybe REMAC look at their portion on there, make any recommendations or anything that needs to be updated. So that once we can reconvene and complete those bylaws, that would be addressed as well. So I would ask that once again, you look at them. If you see any issues on the REMAC side, be sent to the regional email address and stuff so that the committee can review it as we go forward to look at what needs to be updated on that.
Okay, thank you for that. So what we could do is ask all the committee chairmen to look for their sections and see what's relevant and see what needs to be changed. So that's something to follow up.
I had one other just point for everybody, tranexamic acid. In the new protocol starting in July, it's a hemorrhagic shock protocol. It's not a trauma protocol. So in our region, we did not have tranexamic acid because the RTAC did not approve it for trauma, except now it can be given for GI bleeding and can be given for GYN bleeding in that hemorrhagic shock protocol. And there's actually some literature that might help with ACE and, ACE induced angioedema, though that would have to require a medical control call. It's not in the protocol. But since there's medical uses of tranexamic acid now, do we want to push this back to the policy committee here that we opine on that? Because we've been waiting on the RTAC, but now there's another part to this that's not RTAC related. Plus, a lot of the literature for the trauma people show that this is working and they're using it. So we really should kind of go back to the RTAC and ask why not we're using it, because it's being used basically everywhere else in the state. I mean, it's pretty commonly being used. So I don't know what everyone's thoughts are on that. I just wanted to. Right. That's why I'm asking what people think.
Any discussion or comments, questions about the addition of adding TXA to the medical protocols?
I'm not sure it's a motion, but I would send it to policy for discussion.
They have to be here.
Yeah.
I motion to send him an email.
Yeah.
Well, then, in the absence of policy, would it be more proper to forward it to ED committee and get each ED director's take on it? Medically, not trauma.
Yeah, I just think we need to have that discussion
Is that
because
okay?
it's, yeah. By July, we
Sorry,
should,
John.
yeah, no, just by July, we should have some kind of feeling of what we want to do with that, because it's, then we'll have to be explaining that, because it's in the protocol come July, so. And we'll bring it back to RTAC. I sat in at the last RTAC meeting, so I'll make sure the next RTAC meeting, we bring it back to RTAC also and see what their thoughts are.
Okay, great. That's.
Yeah, totally. Like I don't have enough.
All right, any other
Ask
new
me questions.
business? Well, stop saying stuff. JJ, did you raise your hand?
No.
Oh, okay. All right, I need the last motion of the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, anybody disapprove? Okay, all right. Our next meeting is Wednesday, June 4th at 2:15 PM.
Anyone that wants to see the text right now from Ryan Greenberg confirming that, please see me afterwards.